Hello and welcome to the CT Sports Report. My name is Cody Tigg, here with my partner in crime, Chris Calicut. Chris, how are you doing this evening, sir?
Doing fantastic as always, Mr. Teague. I hope you are, my man. Little Super Bowl fallout this week on the CT Sports Report.
Absolutely. You could also probably call it the Super Bowl hangover show for a lot of you Panthers fans, and that's why I'm here to bust chops and put out as many hot takes tonight as humanly possible. So go ahead. I know you've probably been dreading this ever since.
I mean, all right, look. We'll get to some of this eventually, but as a Panthers fan, to be honest with you, again, I picked the score last week with my heart, right, or 2 weeks ago. But this week, I was like, I kind of saw it coming. We just did not get up for the big game. We acted anti-like ourselves, and quite honestly, as I texted you during the game, I believe, or it might have been Champ, our good buddy, this is the team I thought we would see all year, not the one that actually happened. So, but yeah, we can touch on that later on.
Absolutely. So the things we will be touching on tonight, of course, we will do a recap of what we thought about the game. Also touch on the prop bets that happened, and mine and Chris's bet, which turned out not as good as we thought it would, but hey, we still did it. And also we'll touch on some things at the end in terms of some retirements that we heard of, not just in the NFL, but also in the WWE that Chris will recap on at the end of the show. But to start off, I want to say, Chris, in honor of me being right so much during the Super Bowl,
okay,
I'm drinking the Mount Mitchell IPA, single hop from Natty Green's, hashtag reach the summit, baby, because that's exactly what I did.
That you did, and I gave credit where credit was due. And if you go back and listen to the videotape, and do the little instant replay, I actually agreed with you on most things, and even the things that I thought would come true still came true. So we are probably the most accurate sports show possible as far as the Super Bowl game is concerned.
I will say we did look like a couple of geniuses for a couple of nobodies who just try to make a YouTube video and become famous.
Right.
But we'll start off. Basically, what it was is your NFL champions. Denver Broncos is the Denver Broncos 24-10 out there in Santa Clara, San Jose, San Francisco, Bay
somewhere
Area.
Out there. Yeah.
No one knows where they played football at, but there was a game that went on and we watched it for some reason. Definitely not one of your highlight games that you've ever seen in terms of any of the 50 Super Bowls, because it was a defensive game, and of course, not a lot of people like myself like a defensive game. So everyone was a little upset because, let's face it, zero offense.
Yeah, I mean, and on both sides, really, if you think about it. I mean, Peyton's numbers were sufficient, I guess. I mean, Cam's were really about the same ballpark. They had somewhere around 150 yards passing each, which is nothing. Cam added about another 50 on the ground, which if he didn't do that, they would have probably not scored a point. But, I mean, as far as the defensive things, Denver's defense, as you predicted, would get a strip of Cam Newton. And that's what ended up being the turning point in the game twice. Not once, but twice.
Absolutely. And just to touch on what you were talking about, Manning went 13 for 23, 141 yards, one interception. Cam actually did do a little better in terms of yardage than what you just said. He did go 265 in terms of yardage.
In the air?
Yes, in the air.
Oh, geez. Okay.
18 for 41. He only rushed 6 times for 45 yards.
Okay.
So my question is that the Panthers, Cam Newton rushing the ball is a vital part of the Panthers' offense. He only rushed 6 times the whole game. He passed 41 times.
Yeah,
Cam Newton's not.
No, go ahead.
He's not that good of a passer. I think me and you both can agree on that. He can throw from any position possible. He can be sitting on his butt and throw a 60-yard bomb. That's not a question with Cam. He has the arm for it. But if you're the Panthers, you're not winning with Cam Newton throwing 41 passes. It's just not going to happen.
And a lot of those were either throwaways or in duress. Yes, his receivers dropped a few that should have been caught, obviously. I wish we would have done the Ted Ginn drop bet at this point, because God knows somebody would have won by a mile. But, Philly Brown dropped a couple. Jericho Cotchery dropped a couple. One, which was a catch, mind you, that the referees, for some ungodly reason, decided to not call a catch. As you can see from multiple angles, he held control throughout the catch. But I digress. The referees, besides that call, were pretty equally awful on both sides, and unfortunately made themselves a little bit a part of the game where they may not have should have been. But that's beside the point. Cam had an MVP season, was the MVP, but I think he only has like a 56% or thereabouts, mid to high 50s completion percentage for the entire year. Not stellar passing numbers, but his efficiency was a lot better as far as touchdowns to picks from previous years. And like you said, the it factor being his rushing, that's got to be a vital part of the offense, or it's not going to happen. And for him to even set up that part of the offense, you have to have Jonathan Stewart and my boy Fozzie getting them yards. And we'll talk about that in a bit. But that you have to have a rushing attack in order to establish Cam as a runner. And in order to establish Cam as a passer, you have to establish Cam as a runner. And unfortunately, none of that really got into a groove for the Panthers.
Absolutely. And you touching on Brown, the leading receivers for the Panthers, and there was 3 of them, each of them having 4 receptions, Brown, Ginn Jr., and Olsen. Brown went for 80 yards. Ginn went for 74. Olsen only went for 41, of course. A lot of his passes are always going to be that tight end dump unless you're in Seattle burning Cam Chancellor. That's besides the point.
Yeah.
So none of the game plan that you saw work for the Panthers was working in the Super Bowl. Now, did that have something to do with the number 1 defense now setting the Super Bowl record going 10-2 for number 1 defenses going into the Super Bowl?
It had everything to do with it.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's my thing in terms of that. I understand. Don't get me wrong. Cam, definitely the best player this season, hands down. But Jonathan Stewart getting dinged up, I do believe at some point Cam got dinged up because I think if you remember, he was walking around holding that left arm just a little bit.
Yeah, about mid-second quarter, he took a shot. So, but going back to the Fozzie and the running attack, man, Fozzie did okay. I mean, he actually has a little bit more speed than Stewart, but Stewart just did not look like himself throughout the whole game. And I'll tell you why. Denver's defensive front, for goodness sake, take a swig of beer for the working man, as Steve Austin would say.
That's what I'm saying. Absolutely.
But Michael Orr did not protect Cam Newton's blind side, doggone it. He looked like he was on roller skates because the turf was not that great because it had rained a few days before. And I'm not going to sit there and blame the grounds crew, because Denver's defensive front absolutely dominated Michael Orr and the other offensive tackle on the other side. They had 6 pre-snap penalties. That's ridiculous.
And touching on the penalties, Chris, they had 6 pre-snap.
Nope.
4 or 5 that I think came from Michael Orr.
Mm-hmm.
And that's half of the penalties. There was 12 penalties on the Panthers. 12 penalties for 102 yards, 6 for 51 yards for the Broncos. That 1 yard coming on the face mask from Talib. We'll touch on that later.
Yeah, 1 yard,
but
on an intentional face mask. Yeah. Intentional face mask. Anyways, go ahead.
Absolutely. No, you're right. Like I said, we'll touch on that later. But my thing is you cannot have, and all Orr was trying to do was time his step with Cam's count. He was trying to guess Cam's count more than Cam was, because he could not stop anybody. He needed Tim McGraw there by his side to tell him what to do, because let's be real, he was not doing anything that game. Which, don't get me wrong, he was going against 2 of the best players in the NFL in terms of defense, and going up against the number 1 defense, DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller, okay? You can't stop those guys. And the stunts they were running, there was one play that I remember specifically them showing in a replay where Von Miller is lined up on the right side of the line. If you're facing behind the defense,
Right.
He goes and rushes, stops, swings all the way around to the right guard. So from left tackle to right guard, and then he gets the sack on Cam. It is ridiculous. I just want to say Von Miller might have won the MVP.
Yeah.
The MVP of the whole postseason
Wade
was
Phillips.
a coach, and his name was Wade Phillips. His name was Wade Phillips. You couldn't have done a better job against three of the top-tier teams in the NFL, talking about the Patriots, the Steelers, and the Panthers.
And Wade Phillips is one of those guys who may not quite be good enough to be a head coach anymore, or in general, as we found out that experiment did not go as well as they had hoped in Dallas. But is really too good to be a coordinator. You saw how smart his defensive mind really was. He confused the mess out of the Carolina offense. I think Carolina's offense just got outcoached as well as outplayed.
Absolutely, and I guess my thing is he was just a touching moment after the game when he was being interviewed, how he put everything up to his father, Bum Phillips, NFL coach for umpteen years. I don't remember the number, but even Wade Phillips being his age, he's on Twitter, and even his handle is @sonofbum. I mean,
that's pretty good.
He's a fantastic guy. I'm happy more for him than I am even Peyton, probably, because this is something that as a coach you always strive to do. So I'm very happy for Wade Phillips. But going back to the game itself, the Panthers, they won every statistical challenge except for the score. Just to go down, first down was 21-11, Panthers. Third down efficiency, 3 of 15, 1 of 14 for the Broncos.
That's
Rushing
terrible.
yards, 118. Yeah, like horrible game. We both agree on that. Horrible offensive game. Rushing yards, 118-90. Okay. Passing yards, 197-104. So the total yards, Panthers had 315 total yards. The Broncos, they only had 194, which leads to this. The Broncos are the first team ever to win a Super Bowl when only having under 200 yards of total offense. So I don't know what that says for the Panthers, and I don't know what that says for the Broncos, but that's where we're at right now. It was a bad Super Bowl in terms of the game, the halftime, the commercials. It all sucked. But, I mean, it was a game. It was there. We're all talking about it. But the Panthers won everything but the game.
Yep, and let's move to a couple of the decisive plays in that game before we move to the extracurriculars, that is Cam Newton's post-game mannerisms. But two key plays, one that we can sort of look over, but I think deserves at least a one-game suspension, and not for the preseason. And that's Aqib Talib's intentional face mask, which he admitted to a reporter that saved a touchdown.
Absolutely. I guess my thing with Aqib Talib being as good as he is, he was one of these stars that was meant to be brought in for this Wade Phillips defense, along with DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller, to stack them up to be the team that they are. Now, Aqib Talib, we know he's insane. You're going to get your 15-yard penalties.
He was on the edge of insanity all night. He was this close to pulling a Josh Norman or Odell Beckham Jr. He was close to getting himself out of the game. But if you go to Roger Goodell's future NFL, because we talked about this potential rule going into effect after the ODB with Josh Norman earlier in the year, 2 personal foul penalties equals an ejection. Just like soccer, 2 yellow cards equals a red card. You're gone. And he had 2 personal foul penalties in the first half. He would have been a huge factor for Cam to throw over the second string corner in the second half if he was put out in the first.
Absolutely. And that was one thing I did not like about the refs in terms of the game. Now, the whole taunting penalty that Talib had on the sideline going away from the face mask, that was not warranted. And then, but the Panthers also had the same problem when I don't know who the corner was. I don't know the defense as well for the Panthers, I'll be honest. But when Emmanuel Sanders caught the ball, first down, he was about to do his whole drop the ball, first down celebration. and the defensive player for the Panthers comes up and just slaps the ball out of his hands, they throw a penalty for that. Like, those were two of the penalties that I did not agree with for either team. Now, I do agree, Aqib Talib, he should be suspended. You say 1 game, I say half the season. The only reason I say that is because, and this is more of an NFLPA thing in terms of protecting your own. You don't go in there and try to end somebody's career. I understand you're trying to make a game-saving tackle. If he gets in the end zone, it's a whole different game possible. I understand that. Horse collar, I would have understood because you're coming in from behind. But in terms of trying to break the man's neck, personally, I don't know about that. But then again, I think that's going to go a little further than Goodell. I think that might go into the NFLPA, and they might put a little bit more of a bigger sentence for him, I guess you could say, in terms of how much he's suspended, because that was a dirty play. You can't come out there and admit it and just say that you're trying to hurt somebody.
That's a bad look.
Say that you're trying. Yeah, go out there and say, I was trying to make a game-saving tackle. You say that line, probably all is forgiven, because Roger Goodell, he doesn't know what to do in terms of punishing somebody.
No.
But no, you go out there and say, no, I was trying to grab his face mask. I was trying to make sure he didn't get into the end zone. I was possibly trying to break his neck. That's the wrong thing to say. So I lost a lot. I don't mind the taunting. That's going to happen. It's the NFL. Yeah. You're one of the best corners in the game. By all means, prove it. Josh Norman did the same thing. We all know that. But do not go out there and try to ruin somebody's life over a ring and a little extra money, because there's no need in that.
No, and just moving on to another decisive play that I kind of brought up earlier, that's the Jericho Cotchery catch, non-catch. Because right after that play is when Cam was stripped and the ball was pounced on for the Denver touchdown.
Absolutely, and going
right after.
Okay, and let me touch on this. This is one of the prop bets that me and you did not get into, but it was a very popular one in terms of something that was going on in Vegas, and that was Mike Carey. Okay, the CBS
he's
official.
Never right.
Exactly. So what did he say, Chris? What did he say that
he said it was a catch. He said it was a catch.
So right there, you know he's wrong. It's not a catch, just because he said it. Just because he said it,
based on that fact, exactly. But with that said, I know they called it a no catch on the field. I understand that. You have to have indisputable video evidence to overturn a call. But CBS, God bless them, had 2 very good views. And correct me if I'm wrong, they're looking at the same thing as the TV cameras or what we're seeing on the live feed, if not even more and better angles. So he fumbled it on the way down, but no part of his body had ever touched. He controlled the catch throughout, all the way to the ground, ball never touched. I mean, it had to be a control issue because the ball never touched the ground.
Actually, in terms of all I was hearing and in terms of what I saw, Chris, the tip of the ball does touch the ground.
No.
Now, that being said, shut up. That being said, at the time, Jericho Cotchery was up against a linebacker covering him.
Yeah.
I say that because you're a wide receiver who's been in the game for years. You're going up against a linebacker. Why are you having to double clutch and double catch the ball against a linebacker? You shouldn't have to.
Had too much heat on it. Cam was weird. He was tight coming out of the gate. He threw off his back foot probably the first 5 passes because he overthrew everybody. And then he pretty much had too much heat on 2 or 3 of his passes that almost either got picked. And I think this was another one of those instances where Cam just threw the fastball and probably didn't need to. But, I definitely see your point there. I mean, Jericho Cotchery, even though he is aging a bit from NC State University, he probably should have brought that one in a little bit more shorthanded.
What about the other 4 or 5 drops that the Panthers had, Chris? I mean, and I'm not – and if I want to add drops from both the offensive and defensive side, what about the 2 picks that Josh Norman should have had playing defense? Like, I hate playing devil's advocate. It's the worst thing. It's the worst thing in life. But my thing is that on social media, and I've been ready to roast this all day, is that everyone's blaming the referees for two calls in terms of what I'm seeing, maybe three if you count the few times that a Denver player might have been offsides before a snap. Now, the two plays I'm referring to is one, your Jericho Cotchery catch, and then two, the Josh Norman defensive holding call in the end zone.
It was within the first 5 yards, technically. Wait, in the end zone, but the holding didn't take place in the end zone, though. Right.
Yeah, but you're right. But defensive holding does not. You can hit the guy.
Yeah.
You can hit the guy within 5 yards.
You just can't.
But you can't wrap him around the waist like Josh Norman did. And I don't care what anyone says. That was defensive holding. And so those are the two plays that I saw everyone online freaking out about. Here's the thing: if you're going to freak out about those calls, then you have to do things that are going to help you win the game going down the road. Now, you have 2 drop interceptions by Josh Norman. That's why he's a cornerback. He cannot catch the ball, and that was proven in this game. You have 4 to 5 more drop passes besides the Jericho Cotchery one that would at least got you second or third and short, or even a few first downs. It's what if scenarios that you have going on with the Panthers through this whole game that makes fans and broadcasters freak out about everything that was going on. Yeah. The Panthers shot themselves in the foot so much during this game. It's not even funny.
They almost ran out of bullets, but they never did. They always found a way to, if they were moving the ball, which they actually moved the ball okay. Their defense was fairly stout. It's just the stupid mistakes and the careless turnovers. Fun fact here, Mike Tolbert, the bowling ball, fumbled twice in this game. Any guesses to when the last time he fumbled a ball at all? 2011. 2011.
Oh, my God.
And then he had 2 fumbles in the Super Bowl. So that's very uncharacteristic. It's as if the stars aligned for your boy, Peyton Manning, which congratulations to him. I just want to say a big shout-out to who I think was the Panthers' MVP in this game, and that was defensive end Coney Ely. 3 sacks and a pick. He played a whale of a game. So great job, Coney Ely. That'll probably earn you a couple bucks down the road. But now that you've seen sort of how the game went, and notice that we really didn't talk about Peyton Manning all that much because, honestly, he just wasn't that huge a factor. He was just the game manager as what has been for the past year and a half.
Absolutely. Running down Peyton's stats, 13 for 23, 141 yards, 1 interception, and 5 sacks. And here's the thing, you just touched on it a little bit, the game manager that he was. And this is the part that people need to look at, is that Peyton Manning is not the Peyton Manning of old. We all know that. He was here this year. John Elway brought him in, knowing that he was going to be a big name, bring fame to the Broncos again, just like he did back in the day. But the thing is Peyton Manning knew he was not the Peyton Manning of old. He's not going to get 500 yards a game, going 38 for 41, and just going crazy. That's not him anymore. He knew that he had to get in the end zone somehow, which he did with C.J. Anderson.
Somehow.
Hey, C.J. Anderson's a good running back, but he had to get in the end zone somehow, and then all he had to do was get enough yards for Colquitt to come in there and punt the ball and get the Panthers in a bad situation to start.
And if you want to call another MVP besides Miller and Ware, it's Colquitt. He was hitting 52-yarders, directional punts. Ted Ginn didn't have a chance to muff a punt because he was putting it to the sideline. I mean, they were absolutely gorgeous punts, and Colquitt earned whatever punter salary he's getting for sure.
Absolutely. Colquitt, he had 8 punts. His average was 45 yards, and he had 2 inside of the 20-yard line. So he did have a great game, and you're exactly right. And while we're on it, Chris, touching on special teams, another, I guess you could say, brain fart by the Panthers. What happened on the longest punt return in Super Bowl history where the Panthers decided, hey, we're just going to see how far this guy can run before we touch him?
First, It was a defensive lineman who caught him, by the way, which is impressive in and among itself, to save the touchdown. But I guess since it was a beautiful, high, spiraling punt, they were looking for this, and they never got it. It actually happened in an ACC football game with North Carolina, where Ryan Switzer pulled the okie doke on a bunch of people, and he was just chilling, and it was a short punt, and he never waved them off. Ended up being a return for a touchdown. So it was a very similar play if y'all want to look that up on YouTube. But yeah, it's we should have just used our instinct and not went with, oh, this is what he should do.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So this is one more reason why I feel like the Panthers shot themselves in the foot. Now, just touching on the whole game in general, of course, I think me and you can both agree the Panthers were the better team in this game.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Overall, in all facets of the game, overall, yes. But I still think Denver's defense probably had the slight edge in general, and obviously with their number one ranked defense, they definitely showed it.
Absolutely. So, in my opinion, and tell me how you feel, Chris, the Broncos were better in two aspects in terms of team versus team.
Mm-hmm.
Number one being the defense. We can both agree on that. Denver Broncos defense is not way better, but better than the Panthers.
Absolutely.
And then the deciding factor, dare I say it, the punters going one-on-one and the special teams in terms of returning the ball. In terms of the punts.
Yeah.
There was let's see. There was 15 punts in total this game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, special teams is on the field the whole game.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, I know Cano, he did miss a field goal. That field goal did not matter. The Panthers were still in contention when he missed that field goal. Yeah. And this was after the contrary catch and all of that, and they were still in contention.
Oh, yeah.
So that doesn't matter to me. But Peyton Manning did what the sheriff had to do. And Peyton Manning didn't win this game. He didn't even show up. I don't even know if he knew where he was at. Okay? I mean, it was like a Ben Roethlisberger in the first round or their first game when they played each other to where he didn't even know where he was at. Okay? Yep. I mean, Peyton Manning's forehead and his neck is a jigsaw puzzle. Okay? No one knows what Peyton Manning is running off of. That being said, he still was there enough to manage the game, and that's all he did. He managed the game to get enough yards. Hey, okay, I got enough yards. I trust my number one defense with DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller to win me the game. And that's exactly what happened. 2 offensive touchdowns the whole game, and then the defensive touchdown for the Broncos. That the turnovers won the game for the Broncos.
Yep, absolutely, Cody. And that pretty much wraps up the game itself. But there was a couple highlights post-game. One that you won't see as much, and I'll go ahead and put the positive spin before we get to the negative. You did see Cam meet Peyton at midfield, shake his hand, tell him good job, with a smile on his face, was professional in that manner to his opponent, who I'm sure he respects very much. Josh Norman, one of those, outgoing personalities, literally tracked down Peyton as he was going off the field and getting his curtain call before those last kneel downs to say how much he enjoyed it and respected him and all that good stuff. And then, all right, the funny parts. Peyton Manning, I don't know how much money he was getting paid by Budweiser, but he dropped Budweiser's name twice in post-game interviews, once right after the game and then once in his presser. So I don't know how much money he got by them, but it had to be a decent bit.
Supposedly he was not offered anything. He was not endorsed by Budweiser or as I have to say, ABEV, Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, to say anything like that. But it's funny, if you go check my Facebook, if you decide to look me up, there is a thing on there that I posted to where actually a craft beer, I guess you could say website, emailed Peyton and said, hey, instead of the big corporation, why don't you go with the little guy and celebrate with him? So it did turn into something that probably shouldn't have been. I don't think we should read any much to that. He probably will try to be written a check from them since he did say something like that. But of course, the big talk that I think is that he did not make any announcement, Chris.
No announcement, as we kind of both predicted that he would not make an announcement live. And I don't think it's going to come anytime soon. I think it'll be on a slow news day on a Tuesday afternoon on SportsCenter or something. I really don't think he's going to try to make a big deal of it, even if he does decide to hang up the old helmet there. We'll see. Now that he has won his second, and poor Eli Manning just looking sad because he's no longer the favorite. They're now tied at 2 Super Bowls apiece, but it was good to see. I was glad to see it, but I think you have to go out on a high note. I don't think you need to come back and try to prove anything else.
Absolutely. I will say, and also for this game, Peyton, who also won his second Super Bowl, also did win his 200th career game, including postseasons, passing by one, the now Hall of Famer, Brett Favre. So I'm like you, I agree. He should ride off into the sunset. I know his dad, for some reason, let it slip that if he does come back, he's not going to be a Bronco. There's so much to play. Fingers crossed, the man retires. He's done. He needs to go perform on SNL as much as he can and make his own TV show because he's by far one of the funniest athletes I have ever seen in my life.
Definitely. So going more from the positive to the negative, Mr. Cameron Newton, Charlotte's golden son, decided to, I don't want to say give up on his team, but on that fumble, I really don't know if his heart was in it or if he was trying to think into the future and all that money he's going to be getting.
Yeah, that was my thing. If you're listening to a few people talk, there's two sides of the story. One, was Cam scared and did not want to go after the ball because at that point, if Denver recovered right there, it was absolutely over.
Yeah.
When that second fumble happened, again, the Panthers still in contention. They were in contention the whole game. Mm-hmm. It's just no one wanted to show up to play. And then the second side of the story, and the side that I don't believe, but it is something that's being brought up, is that when the ball was being dived for, he was thinking that, it's going to be knocked up in the air, then I'll go get it. So that's the second half of the story.
Yeah, but he said that. I don't believe that one either. He said that my leg was in a bad position, that my knee would have locked up if I would have made the dive or something like that. He tried to cover his behind, and you got to think of it a couple different ways. One, did he give up on his team? I'm not so sure about that one. Or was he just looking out for himself and what he means to that franchise and all the money that he's in store for in the next 4 to 8 years? So
absolutely. And touching on that, Chris, in terms of how he went after that ball, let's just go ahead and let's go into it because I don't know how much time we have. I haven't been timing. I don't know if you have, but nonetheless, since I have not touched on nonetheless the whole time, and there's 3 for you.
That was good.
But I guess my thing is everyone's bashing on Cam mostly for not how he acted with the smile and the hug and the handshake to Peyton, to where that's happy Cam, but the sad and I guess you could say really upset Cam in the post-game interview. Now, I guess my thing is this is his fifth year in the NFL?
Yep, 5th season.
5th season. His first 4 have not been great. And if you really think about it, the Cam that we saw on the sideline, how he acted in the game and how he acted in the press conference, this is the Cam we've seen for the first 4 years of his career. Why anyone was shocked that he was acting like this is beyond me. Like I like Cam.
The same people, right? And the same people who detracted for this behavior are basically saying, "I told you so," because the local folks in Raleigh on 99.9 The Fan, they have a hashtag on Twitter, and have since the Cam started being a brat, is called the Cam sigh. You know, with him with his little towel on his head, looking down, and that's pretty much the Cam that we saw the whole game. He did not quite look his usual jubilant self.
Yeah, and that's my thing. Say, I know everyone's roasting Cam on how he acted after the game, during the game. People, let's remember, this is him. This is what Cam does every game he loses, whether it's by 3 or whether it's by 30. This is Cam. His head's down. He doesn't talk to any of his teammates. How he's even – he won the MVP. I'm okay with that. He had a great season. But how he is and how he is with a loss, how he's ever going to be the face of a franchise is beyond me. Because here's my thing is that you have – besides comparing him to everyone who celebrates, I have no problem with how he celebrates. I have no problem with how he acts, because I would be the same way, as I'm sure you were, because we're all the same age, except for you, being old and all. But
yeah. Hey, only one extra year. Calm down.
But my thing is this is how any normal 26-year-old would act. But you've been in it for 5 years now. You see how everyone else acts. I mean, the least you could do is just answer the questions and take your loss. I mean, it happens. You're going to lose. Just because you never lost in junior college, just because you never lost in Auburn, you've lost for the past 4 years with the Panthers. What makes this year any different? The only thing that makes it different is because it's on a grand stage and everyone's trying to make something out of it. People need to leave Cam alone. Now, Cam does need to grow up and stop pouting every time something bad happens, like a little 2-year-old. But people just need to leave him alone, and he'll eventually grow up. He'll eventually learn that, hey, I'm going to lose, but I'm going to get paid because this is my job, and I need to do my job.
Huh. That's somewhat of a positive spin from you that I wasn't quite expecting. I'm proud of you. That was good.
Well, like I said, I was going to be positive for Cam. I mean, now, don't get me wrong. Everyone's saying that Cam said, show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser. So let me remind everybody, Vince Lombardi said that, not Cam. So
exactly, I was about to bring that up if you didn't. And so, hey, that's somewhat impressive that he brought out a Vince Lombardi quote. I would not expect Cam Newton to bring out a Vince Lombardi quote.
Everyone's saying dash Cam Newton that he quoted that. No, get out of here. You're dumb and you don't know sports, because it's a Lombardi quote.
But yeah. Cam, he'll live and he'll learn, I hope. Because a lot of commercials are coming his way, a lot of money's coming his way. He needs to learn to take the good with the bad, and the Panthers look to be in a pretty good spot going forward. Looks like they're going to franchise tag Josh Norman next year if they're not able to work out a deal. So that's not good news for Josh, but good news for the Panthers. And they've got a core in place that I think they'll be good for, a decent number of years to come, as they especially bring up some good running backs through the ranks.
Absolutely, and like I said, I know you're shocked by my positive spin on Cam, but I do want to say I know that there was a big problem with him probably hearing the commotion behind him in terms of some of the Broncos players cheering and yelling, saying stuff about him. Look, that comes with the territory. They won the Super Bowl. They're going to hoop and holler about everything.
Yep.
It's just.
And what I would like to know, here's my last thing on this, and we'll move on. What I want to know the question that was asked that made him get up. Like, I doubt it was in just the middle, like he felt like he was done and he just went up. I want to hear the audio to what question was asked, and did it come back on him to what he said in the weeks prior, that, he is a African-American quarterback. And this is a rumor, absolutely rumor, and I don't know this as a fact, that somebody asked him, do you feel like you've let the African-American community down by this loss? And that's when he got up. That's a rumor, but I would like to know the question that made him get up.
Yeah, I've read that, but touching on that before we move on as well, like you said, there's also rumors about how if you listen real closely to the audio in the background, you can hear Wilson, one of the defensive players of the Broncos, is talking junk about how, oh man, I wish Cam would have passed the ball more and stuff like that, so we could have done more in terms of getting the ball That's another thing that we're hearing as well. All that being said, he needs to act. He's not a professional. He is an athlete, but he's not a professional athlete. And him trying to be the face of the franchise, your favorite NFL team, the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it. I mean, I'm a Steelers fan. I don't even like the face of my franchise. I mean, I don't like Ben Roethlisberger because of his past and everything that he was accused of doing.
Right.
But we never proven. But yet he still plays the game. Well, Cam, he's front and center. He's the best thing that Carolina's had since, I don't know, ever. If you ask me, in terms of a football player.
Yeah.
So it's
definitely, definitely the biggest name and biggest personality that the Panthers have seen. Besides Steve Smith in their franchise's history, probably.
Yeah, and besides Ric Flair, he's probably the best athlete that's ever been in North Carolina. Let's be serious. So
you forget Michael Jordan.
Hey, he played in Chicago. He deserted me. So
okay.
He went and played for the Wizards instead of playing for the Hornets.
All right, so congratulations to the Denver Broncos, your 2015-16 NFL World Champions. Now let's move to our little friendly wager, our prop bets, and I'm going to run down the results for you. Okay, Fozzie Whitaker, plus or minus 5.5 yards. I said over. You said under. And we said, what if Jonathan Stewart gets hurt? And what happened? Jonathan Stewart got hurt. So
NFL scriptwriters trying to make money off of Vegas, man. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Fozzie ran the ball for several yards and also had a catch, I believe. So he ended up with well over 5.5. So I won that bet.
He ended up with over 40, by the way. I just want to put it out there. He was over 40.
That was pretty solid. It was a decent performance by Fozzie.
Yeah.
And the one that you received credit for, the first scoring play of the game. When I knew the Panthers were probably going to choose tails, which they did. I figured they would win, which they did. Thought they were going to defer, which they did. And we couldn't make the stop. So the Broncos got the field goal, as you predicted. So we're now 1-1. So depending on which site you look at, but more say this than none, mentions of dabbing in the broadcast. And I was happy-go-lucky the whole broadcast. Cam didn't score. Jim Nantz didn't say it. Nothing. And then about 2 minutes left in the fourth, the camera pans to the Denver sideline, and everybody's dabbing. Everybody. And Jim Nantz said, oh, look, a little dab for Cam Newton. And then Phil Simms decided to say, a little dab will do you. I'm like, wait a minute. Is that going to be the old school saying, a little dab will do you? Or are you trying to be the Flintstones? What you doing, Phil Simms? But if you look at it, those are the only two mentioned on the live broadcast. So that is a push, ladies and gentlemen. So no money goes either way. We both enjoyed our time at the World Olympic Trials for U.S. table tennis. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I'm a little upset. I wish I would have made it 2.5, so I'd at least won. Or no, you would have won.
I would have won it 2.5.
So at least we would have had a winner. But I mean, yeah, no, it was a fun wager. I know I was freaking out, enjoying some adult beverages and all sorts of stuff during the Super Bowls. But I'm glad it's over because I was stressing out. I'm glad no money moves either way because let's be real, neither one of us can afford it. We're poor making YouTube videos.
You're right.
So that's what it comes down to. But in terms of some of the most popular bets that we had going on, let's go ahead and talk about it. The color of the Gatorade, Chris, turned out being orange, which was the favorite.
Yep. And I saw it and I said, uh-oh. And then I also saw they replayed the coverage from the NFC Championship with the Panthers, and it was also orange. So I was very glad early on that we did not take that one.
Absolutely. And then also talking about what was going on. Will Mike Carey be wrong? Absolutely.
Yeah. Sure he is. He's never right.
I should have went on Vegas and made a bet on that. That was a no-brainer. He doesn't know football. Why he's on NBC or why he's on – is it NBC or CBS?
CBS, yeah.
I'm sorry. Had a brain fart there. But why he's on – by the way, CBS's coverage, awful. I just want to talk about that. I would have rather watched the game on mute, but that's besides the point. But yeah, so I mean, he's always wrong. Why he's even there, I'll never know. Of course, Peyton Manning did not retire during the broadcast. He did not cry during the broadcast. The Steph Curry
I would have
jersey
been
bet was a
right.
push.
Oh.
According to what I've read, he was never officially shown on TV during the game to officially make the bet come true.
Really? Because they
As
showed
a,
him on the broadcast hitting the keep pounding drum with a number 30 Curry Panthers jersey.
had to be during the game. That was before the game.
Oh,
That's where Vegas. That's where Vegas got you. That's where Vegas got you.
All right, that's fine.
All right, and then one of my favorite ones. Well, this is I don't know why I'm saying this. Why I say it's my favorite. It's a little. It shows how much of no heart I don't have. Will the Panthers score their first touchdown? Will the football go to a boy or a girl? The answer is neither, because Jonathan Stewart was selfish and he kept the ball.
Hey, it's a Super Bowl touchdown. You got to keep that, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And then the announcers never mentioned how Kubiak was Elway's backup, which I was surprised about. Coldplay, they did sing Viva La Vida first. I felt like that was a no-brainer, even though Adventure of a Lifetime was leading the odds at 2-1. Left Shark
did not appear.
Did not appear, which really broke my heart. But, I mean, overall, if anyone bet anything on the Super Bowl, I feel bad for you because
you probably lost.
You lost a lot of money. There was a lot of stuff that happened. There's a lot of stuff that didn't happen. But thank goodness it's over. This is not a good Super Bowl. It was not.
A quick note about the halftime show. Did you enjoy it or no?
I don't like Beyonce, so I can't really say I enjoyed her. I like Coldplay's music, but they're not a Super Bowl 50 type of band.
Correct.
Bruno Mars. I love that guy, even though it wasn't even his song. I mean, the concept of everything they were trying to do was cool, but no. My favorite part was when they replayed all the Super Bowl halftime shows of previous.
Yeah, exactly. I actually watched that show the night before while I was with my lovely wife in Lynchburg, Virginia. They showed the best halftime shows of all time, and that was a nice viewing. But I'm in complete agreement with you here. I was not a huge fan of the halftime show. Bruno Mars probably the most entertaining of that, and a lot of Beyonce people are going to hate on both of us, the Queen Bee. But to me, not my cup of tea all around the board. Didn't agree with some of the political stuff that was going on, but hey, we won't get into that. We're a sports podcast. No, not a fan of the halftime show.
Absolutely. And Chris, before we wrap it up, because I know the last thing we're going to touch on is some of the retirements, like I said, both WWE and NFL. I just want to mention, did you see Beyonce almost fall?
I did not catch that on live TV. I had to catch that one on the replay.
Oh, my goodness. That would have made my night if Queen Bee fell down, especially after she made that ugly face at the New Orleans halftime show. But anyway, Chris, let's move on to retirements. I know you have probably more of a feel of the retirements than I do. Right now, of course, up in the air, Peyton, we do not know about. But, of course, I want to touch on a lot of Panthers favorites just to start off before we move anything else. But John Beeson is one of the ones I'm hearing right now. I know a lot of Beeson jerseys out there. He was one of the Panthers' favorites, been with them for a long time. I mean, how does that make you feel that Beeson's not going to be coming back on the field anymore?
Beeson was a great player for a long time. Is synonymous with the Panthers brand. But if you just got to look at it, he's a linebacker. You look at the linebacking core now for Carolina. With him aging and injury issues, there's just not a place for him, unfortunately, anymore. He's battled through a few things, was not a factor this year. It was, unfortunately, I think, time for him to go. It was good to officially announce it, but hopefully he gets a positive send-off.
Absolutely. I really did. I mean, he was a good player and one of the good guys in the NFL, which unfortunately is becoming harder and harder to find as time goes on. And then One of my favorite people retiring from the NFL, Beast Mode.
Skittles.
Taste
the
Beast
rainbow.
Mode, boss. I hate to say it, but it's his time to go. He's been in the league for a while. Marshawn Lynch, he probably didn't have the career that he actually wanted to due to off-field issues and a bunch of other stuff. But for what he's done for his community and everything that he'll probably continue to do for his community, even though he's so soft-spoken, just look it up. The man does plenty for where he's from. I do wish Marshawn Lynch farewell. He was fun to watch and even more fun to watch in terms of interviews.
He's not going to get fined anymore, at least.
Don't find me, bro.
No, don't. I'm just here not to get fined. And then, you know the reason I'm here. That whole media day with him a couple of years ago, fantastic. One of the bigger personalities, but also, a pretty smart dude in his own right. Great running back. The Seahawks will miss him. The Panthers will not. So the Panthers will not miss him at all. So, well wishes to Marshawn as well.
Absolutely. And before we go into the WWE, because I think me and you are both going to have something good to say about the guy who retired from the WWE, I just want to touch on this. Your favorite team to get to Super Bowl 51 is the New England Patriots. Mm-hmm. They are a favorite to win, followed in a three-way tie between the Seattle Seahawks, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Green Bay Packers. Chris, real quick, what's your feelings on that? I feel like those are first of all, before you hop on my team.
The shower curtain.
Hey. Oh God, the defense sucks. If we don't do anything with the defense sucks, why Vegas would even say this? Right. Zero idea, okay? But the offense is there once. If that offense can stay healthy for a whole season, they're scoring 30 points a game like the Panthers did this year. No question. So I have no problem with that. It's the same with the Patriots. If they stay healthy, and Seahawks, if they can finally get together and have everyone agree on their contract before the season starts, yeah, I do feel like those are your three good teams. And then the Packers also with some injuries. I do feel like those are all very good teams to have.
Jordy Nelson's back. So, Aaron Rodgers has his number one target back. So, Packers are probably going to be up there. Obviously, the Patriots are a perennial powerhouse. They're going to be in the top three every year unless Bill Belichick retires. And Tom Brady. So you got to have the Panthers somewhere in that top 5 to 7 range, I would think, just based on their performance this year and their likelihood of keeping most of their core guys under contract going into next year as well.
Absolutely. And then Chris, go ahead to wrap up the show. One of our favorite wrestlers, Daniel Bryan. Whether it's, I think it's injury related. You know more about it than me, but he's hanging at the boots. He's done in terms of his in-ring career with the WWE.
Right. It appears he'll remain under contract, but his in-ring career, effective immediately, is over. He's been out for quite a while with concussion-related symptoms. Was cleared by 2 separate brain doctors, and also did not get cleared by WWE's neurologist. That's the name I was looking for, neurologist. But he apparently went for some tests because they were considering bringing him back the week of the Royal Rumble over in Pittsburgh. And the results, unfortunately, did not come back in Daniel Bryan's favor. There was apparently a lesion over the part of his brain that causes seizures, and he has been suffering from some seizures as well as predicted. 10 to 12 diagnosed concussions in his career, and God knows how many undiagnosed. So he's only 34 years old, married to Brie Bella, a WWE diva. They're wanting to start a family soon. So he was every man's underdog. He basically looked like you, in a sense. I
did trim the beard for this show. I trimmed the beard for this show. I just want to put it out there. Look at it.
I've got the goatee and the spectacles going on today, but I have to look smart somehow. But no, well wishes to Daniel Bryan, one of my favorites, the ultimate underdog. Like I said, 5'8", $175, and went on to main event WrestleMania and win the biggest title in the company and in the business. So good luck to him. I'm sure he'll stay under contract and find another role, whether that be PR, teaching and coaching, or maybe even an on-television figure of some sort. in the future. But yeah, well wishes to him. And that just about wraps us up for the CT Sports Report on this lovely Wednesday evening.
Absolutely. It's been a great show. And just remember us, follow us on our main terms of communication. That would be CT underscore. We can't get that right. This whole us not being in the same place is killing me.
Well, right now your video is frozen on me, so I couldn't see the point or anything, but that's okay.
Anyway, but the CT underscore sports report, please follow us on Twitter. We'll be posting this on YouTube. That way you can watch us in all of our faces that are made for radio glory. And definitely comment, do anything you can to get in touch with us, because
share the video.
Oh, absolutely. Hashtag share the wealth. But we definitely want to do everything we can to get ourselves out there. If you don't like my opinion, which I'm sure 99% of North Carolina does not, please, by all means, let us know. That's the whole point of what we're trying to do. Me and Chris are enjoying this new thing that we have that we're able to make on Google Hangouts. That way we can share it with you and make you mad or make you happy. We don't care. We're just trying to get famous on YouTube. So, I mean, follow us, subscribe, hit the little button down there at the bottom, like underneath our screen. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. If you look up here over my left shoulder and over Chris's left shoulder, it'll say follow us at CT underscore sports report through the whole thing, unless you hit the little X button.
Yep.
So those things, definitely want to do all we can. I mean, at this point, Chris, is anything you'd like to say to the wonderful public that's watching us and all of our viewers that we might not ever have?
That's it, man. I'm just enjoying this new format. We're able to do it on a more regular basis, which is good for brand building, obviously. So I'm having fun, man. I hope you are. Hope the folks at home are somewhat enjoying our hot takes and common sense, and I look forward to keeping it going.
Absolutely. So even though my favorite season's over, you know,
spring training in 2 weeks, Daytona in 3 weeks.
Absolutely.
And we actually have, hold 1 second. We actually have a NASCAR correspondent if we really want to include them.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about this.
Mr. Bradley Terry.
We're going to talk about this more when we get off air. My mind is blown without even you saying anything. But absolutely, again, at CT Sports Report on Twitter, CT underscore Sports Report on Twitter. Definitely follow us there. Share us. Share the video that we're going to plaster on Facebook and Twitter. And absolutely follow us. All things sports, anything and everything goes. Hot takes and common sense. I'm Cody Teague.
I am Chris Calicut.
And we thank you for joining us tonight on this Wednesday evening. Again, share us everywhere. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Have a good night, guys.